So Adam, I was thinking, what constitutes a power nine in a format, right? And so we were talking about this in our group chat, and I was we kind of hemmed and hawed about like what the power nine would be of pre-modern, and you came back with me with something that I thought was kind of interesting, which is like, how do we judge that? How do we gauge? Is it just on power level? Is it like what would fit into the slots of the power nine and stuff like that? I kind of want to go over. You helped me create this doc. You created this document, I should say. And I kind of want to go over, bit by bit what it is, and we'll talk about the cards that we chose for it, and then we'll eventually like kind of come across what our final power nine is for pre-modern. So with no further ado, why don't you get started off and talk about like kind of what your thought process was here.
First of all, let me just say hi. Long-time listener, first-time caller. Astute.
It's great to have you.
Thank you for having me. Astute listeners, reviewers of this show may know me as friend of the show, Adam.
Yes.
It's nice to, I'm not just a hologram.
This episode of Eternal Durdles is sponsored by CardMill, the first automated scanner and sorter built specifically for trading card game players. With its intentionally compact design, CardMill uses AI-powered recognition to identify each card and sync inventory with real-time pricing, batching up to 300 cards at a time by name, set, color, or type. Collection data is securely stored in the CardMill network, giving players full access to their cards through an easy-to-use web portal. CardMill supports Magic the Gathering, Pokemon, Yu-Gi-Oh!, Flesh and Blood, Disney Lorcana, Star Wars Unlimited, and many more to come. Created by software engineer and longtime Magic the Gathering player Jonathan Dumanis, CardMill launches on July 22nd on Kickstarter with early bird pricing starting at $350. Backers receive lifetime access to all software updates and new features. Go to cardmill.com to learn more and reserve your path to the future of card sorting.
Okay, so what the heck were we talking about? You and I were in a group chat, and we were spitballing on how much we liked your Pac-Man suit that viewers may get to see if they get to play in a tournament with you. And I mentioned, hey, I think you should try and get a man-tailored suit with Power 9 on it. I don't know what kind of copyright issues you run into, but I think it'd be pretty spiffy. And so here we go. So the Power 9, growing up, and even still today, it's always been one of those sort of like unobtainable goals. And I think really that's the point of what it is, right? It's a selling purpose for the platform of Magic, right? If you look at the annals of history of what Magic the Gathering is, it's not just a strategy game, but it's also a collectible card game, right? And so these 9 cards sort of
emphasis on collectible.
Yeah, exactly. So these cards sort of sit on the razor's edge of both like power and rarity to make them sort of as expensive and awesome as they are. And that's sort of, survived even the fact that hardly anyone plays vintage anymore. Rest in peace. So these cards actually have very low utility, but they're still like basically, they're the marquee banner of this game.
Yeah. But to play vintage, they have the utmost utility, right?
Of course. So there is absolutely a reason to get them if you were going to do that in paper. Although I don't know that, if I owned them, that I could bring myself to take them in a deck box. I feel
so. I think that's the first point, right? So like we have to gauge this by like, if we're saying what is the Power 9 of pre-modern, we have to gauge it through the eye of pre-modern, right? Like we can't just say, oh, what are the most expensive, hard to get cards in pre-modern? They have to be the cards that like are the must play cards.
Exactly,
right?
Like the marquee power level icons of what it means, right? Like stuff that it's guaranteed to. If you go to a pre-modern tournament, you're going to see them on the table. If you're playing a pre-modern table, if you're playing in a pre-modern tournament, you're going to feel great when you get to resolve them, and probably not so great when your opponent resolves them against you. So with that being said, the first stab I took at this was like, what are the categories that like the Power 9 as we know them fall into today, right? And so the first category is pretty easy, right? That's mana. So you have the Moxen and Black Lotus. And then you have the other 3, right? Time Twister, Recall, and Time Walk. And I started thinking, okay, so what exactly do those cards, do they all have something in common, right? And maybe they do, right? Well, 8 of them do, in my opinion. The mana ones will accelerate you on mana, right? Or fix it. So they pull you ahead that way. Recall draws you cards, so it accelerates you in terms of card resources. Time Walk will accelerate you in terms of tempo. It's only Time Twister that's kind of weird in this case because the effect is symmetrical. You may get the side benefit of nuking a couple of graveyards, although that could be detrimental for you depending on what you're doing. So it was hard for me to sort of find a matrix, if you will, to map all of those card types as we've been discussing them here into like a particular spreadsheet. Right?
An impossible task, I would say, yes.
Perhaps. But, I took my first stab at it. The way that I've thought about this is, let's do the easy ones first. And then maybe the obvious answers for what's remaining will fall out, right?
Sure.
So for me, the 5 Moxen map to the 5 fetch lands. That's my first hot take.
Okay.
I think that here you get the ability to fix your mana. You're not accelerating yourselves, but you are, by including them in your deck, right? Bloodstained Mire, Flooded Strands, Polluted Delta, Windswept Heath, and Wooded Foothills, last but not least. These are iconic cards that have persisted through Magic's timelining. We see them see play in Vintage even. They're legacy staples. Even the modern players use them to great effect. So I think like their power in terms of like deck composition and utility can't be understated. And they're like the next best things we have to the 5 Moxes is the 5 fetch lands. So what's your opinion on that, lay of the land so far, pardon the pun?
Yeah, so I have a similar, I think you called this mapping to effect, right? And for me, I went in sort of a different angle, right? Because for me, the Moxen are powerful because they do basically what Time Walk does. They put you ahead, right? They put you ahead a turn because they're basically like, if we think about, our lizard brain as kids, when we first saw Moxes, we were like, why is this good? It's just another land you can put into play, right? And then as we became, on that like idiot Jedi, like that the idiot caveman Jedi.
Why would I play Mox Pearl when I could play a Ball Lightning?
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. Okay. So for me, like I was like, let's be at least in the middle. The magic is so hard guy, right? So for me, I was like, if we're gonna map those two effects, let's do similar effects per color, right? And for me, like obviously, then that's black is Dark Ritual, right? Like black sets you ahead almost technically 2 turns, and for what it does a lot of times, it's generally like you're powering out a Hypnotic Specter or a Phyrexian Negator or a Drinker of Sorrow, cards like that. They're putting you ahead a couple of turns, at the cost of like a card for sure, but like you're getting that effect, right? Power at all costs, right? But then you got to think, okay, so like if black if Dark Ritual is the black version of that, then what's the blue version? The blue version,
right. So we have the Mox Jet, so what's the Mox Sapphire?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So the blue version could be Lotus Petal. Like you do see like Tricks decks occasionally, not often. You could even say like, okay, like yeah, you mentioned Gush before as like a possibility. I think Gush is tough because like you have to basically like have missed a land drop to make the land drop off that. Now there are added benefits to Gush on top of that, but I think I would throw Lotus Petal for the decks that want to use it, either in the black side because Iggy Pop does use it too, but either in the black side or in the blue side. Blue side, right? So then going from there, the white side, white's kind of got to be the toughest, and I think you just go Mox Diamond because the decks that like Terravore decks, which are green and white decks, right? They do play not Mox Diamond. They play like all the utility cards are blue. Are white. And the bigger cards, like the Terravore, Oath of Druids, whatever, are green. But green has a natural choice for that. And the natural choice for green is like Llanowar Elves or Mana Dorks, Finhorn Elves, that sort of thing, right? So you could say Mox Diamond is your white, and then from there you could say, okay, if Mox Diamond is my white, then Llanowar Elf is my green, right? So then we're missing red. And I think when we were talking, I had the hardest time with red because like what ramps you in red?
You're gonna steal my thunder here.
Goblin Lackey
Yeah.
ramps you in red, right? Goblin
Yeah.
Lackey is the card that ramps you in red, and I think you were already on that path because that's a card I took from your pile.
Yeah. So let's do a little foreshadowing.
Finding the right high-end cards for legacy, vintage, pre-modern, or old school Magic can be challenging. That's where a friend's 3-for-1 trading come in.
3-for-1 Trading is one of Europe's top Magic the Gathering retailers with an incredible selection of premium singles, sealed product, and even full sets, all available with free, fast, and secure worldwide shipping.
They add fresh inventory every Wednesday with weekly deals and discounts. So whether you're hunting for that elusive piece of power, a legacy staple, or something spicy for your collection, they've got you covered.
First high-end orders over $500 or €500, use the code EDFREE to get free worldwide shipping.
Check them out now at the number 3, the number 4, the number 1.gg/ED. That link takes you right to the shop and helps support the channel.
Huge thanks to 3-for-1 Trading for supporting the Legacy community. Now back to the show.
On that and come back to it later. Okay, so you have your 5 Moxes and I have mine. But I want to get to the instants and sorceries of the Power 9.
Uh-huh.
And
yes.
Give you my hot take on this one. So if you look at what Time Walk does, in its worst case, it's an explore.
Mm-hmm.
In its best case, it can enable you the ability. We're all good on the dog front?
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah, he's fine. He's quiet now.
All right. Gotta make sure nobody's breaking into your place. So where was I? Time Walk, right? Worst case, it's an explore. Best case, it allows you to attack for lethal. And so it's really buying you tempo. There's a lot of ways that you can do that in pre-modern. I couldn't iron out one card. I can give you a sort of top 3, and there's a fourth that I'm not going to mention because it'll upset Phil, and I don't want him to get upset when he hears this.
I have a fifth, I think. That is that analog.
Viewers of the show will know.
I think I'll upset viewers
about.
Of the show with
right.
my choice, but go on.
Okay, fair enough. Yeah, but without further ado, I think that those 3 cards in no particular order are Wasteland, Rashad Port, and Dust Bowl. I think that that those cards make up a kind of, I don't want to say pillar of the format, but have a unique effect, either one shot or repeatable, or like the mere presence of them offers the threat of stealing tempo in a way that can alter the way your opponent plays just by laying it on the table. And anybody can tell you that, getting color screwed by a Wasteland or repeatable Rishadan Port at just the right time can be the difference between a lethal attack and not. And so for me, Time Walk is going to have to go to, one of those cards. I'm going to actually, vote for Wasteland because that's that one's near and dear to my heart, right? But, close second are Rashad Port.
Okay. So I definitely want to hear what the fourth card is.
Oh, it's Daze.
Daze. Oh yeah.
Daze.
No, Daze is a great example actually, because Daze is built as a Time Walk. That's the whole tempo protect the queen strategy is like you're giving up a land to stop your opponent from playing a card. Like they tapped out, obviously, like they did all the stuff they could do, and you said no. But my choice for this slot, and this is not, I have a different analog for my slot for this, but one card you kind of forgot. It's a 2-mana sorcery, just like Time Walk is, and it allows you to attack for lethal. Is Final Fortune. Not a card I see often played, but I had to talk somebody out of it.
That is pre-modern legal.
Yeah, this weekend I had to talk somebody out of playing it in their slide deck. We were at like a local, and he was like, I think this card's good, but like I can't get it to work in my deck, and I was like, don't play it. Like, just don't play it.
You see that line that says you lose the game?
Yeah. Well, no, it's not even that. It's like he's like, I don't cast it when I lose the game. He's like, I only do it when I'm already winning, and I probably already would have won. Like, it's certainly not going to let your ball lightning attack again, So at that point, what are you doing? Getting in with a Jackal Pup a second time? So, right. Final Fortune, I'll bring it up on the screen so we can see it here. Final Fortune, for those of you who do not know, was the Mirage fixed Time Walk card. Let's get some good art onto this Final Fortune.
That art's great. It's just the border is,
Yeah. This is my favorite Final Fortune.
That's a good one.
And this is from a slide deck, I believe. This is Ben Rubin's slide deck. But yeah, Final Fortune was the card that, like, you know, Mirage gave you a bunch of fixed versions of Power 9 cards. You got Lion's Eye Diamond, Final Fortune. You got, you know, some other classics that were just like not good enough. But there's Final Fortune. So for me, I think I don't really worry so much about the Time Walk ability. I think I'm here thinking more on the lines of the power level of Time Walk, right? And so there's a couple cards that I think are on that power level for Time Walk, and they're all blue. And it's tough, man, because I could say, you know, like, there's one that I'm not going to say because I want to use it for Ancestral Recall, because I think that's the one. But I think because it's an instant, this gives you the same sort of power level as Time Walk. Like, if Demonic Tutor was an instant, it would be a Power 9 card, right? And that's what you're getting from Intuition.
Dude, pray tell, what you know, you want to expand on that?
That is a demonic tutor.
Not
in this
always.
format, not always, but many times it's a demonic tutor, and oftentimes it's a demonic tutor for the exact card that you demonic tutor for in Vintage, which is Ancestral Recall, because of accumulated knowledge, right? You're like, I'm going to get 3 cards for this one card. But
it's going to cost you 5 mana.
Yeah. Now, it costs you 5 mana over 2 turns, generally, right?
Not so easy with Wasteland.
Instant speed, I think, gives it that it allows me to throw that into the Time Walk zone, because it breaks the time barrier, right?
Sure. I can see
that's what I'm going to go for my Time Walk slot.
Okay, I'm going to let you have that. I'm not going to beat you up on that one. I'm going to save the ammo in the tank for the last thing. I think we should do Lotus last.
Okay.
And now we can start getting to the real spicy ones, right? Because we have
and Lotus is going to be like a whole mind jump, because there's no great Lotus in this format. So you really have to explain yourself for Lotus.
So let's go with Time Twister next.
Time Twister.
Yes. I think Time Twister is a fantastically fun card.
Mm-hmm.
It is undoubtedly powerful, but it is a relic of a bygone era, because we don't have to even mention Modern Magic, right? We can just look, I don't know, 10 years ago? Back when Tinker was still legal and extended? Oh, I don't know, maybe it was longer than 10 years ago. I'm getting old, man.
Who knows? But 10 years ago. Extended hasn't existed for almost 15 or 20 years.
Yeah. Tinker is legal in our format, and it's arguably more powerful than Time Twister.
Okay.
Because a lot of times when you cast Tinker, you just win the game. That having been said, my vote for what is Time Twister is not going to be Tinker.
Okay.
It's actually going to be Gush. And the reason I say that is I was asking myself, hey, what card do I want to cast, either to ensure that I'm going to win the game when I'm ahead, or find something awesome when I'm behind?
Mm-hmm.
To get me out of this mess I found myself in. And that's exactly what Time Twister does. Yes.
And with Time Twister and with Gush, there is a drawback.
Right.
It is somewhat symmetrical, right?
Yes. So you're we've Vulcan mind melded here, because you're taking the words out of my mouth. So Gush really exists in kind of this weird trifecta of these things we've been talking about. And so for me, like, after a lot of soul searching, this is where I wound up. Gush has a drawback. Got to return those lands, right? Time Twister has a drawback. You got to give your opponent card. If I'm a combo deck and I'm ahead and I want to press my advantage, spin the wheel. Let's see what we get. I bet that you won't get Force of Will, right? Or I'll find my duress in the Time Twister case, right? And if I'm behind, quick little freebie draw 2, that's one way to find a foil, or a threat or a removal spell, or whatever I need this turn to not lose the game. And so that's why I'm voting for Gush in the Time Twister spot.
Yeah, man, in the Time Twister spot this was hard for me in the Time Twister spot. So, I mean, the obvious answer a little too obvious is this classic diminishing returns. That's a little too. It's a little too easy. Yeah, it's a little too easy. I you know, like, hey, if I'm not flexing my old school knowledge about bad Magic cards that are made after good Magic cards, and this actually isn't even that bad. If this cost 3, this would have been playable.
Yeah, I think you know.
We're talking about diminishing returns here.
I mean, this did see play when it was printed in some crazy combo decks.
Barely, yeah.
And you know, I have cast this card in the Legacy format, and I think, you know, it probably has like a 10-to-1 lose to win ratio when you're casting that card. So we all kind of learn about the danger of cool things. That's diminishing returns. I think that's one of the reasons why it doesn't see any play in this format.
Yeah. So I think if I were to choose a card in that zone, right? You know, giving advantage to both players, like something's happening on both ends of the battlefield, right? I think, and it's a card I've been seeing a lot more being played lately, and the idea is you build your deck to advantage that card, right? Like, if you're playing Time Twister, you're not playing it because you want fair things to happen for both players, right? So the answer for me is Armageddon. And now that's a card that was certainly legal while Time Twister was a quote unquote standard legal card, right? They were around both eras, but you get this. I have to build my deck in such a way that I can take advantage of Armageddon.
That's right.
And against some decks, it's a blowout. So that's where I'm going. My Time Twister is Armageddon.
You know what? I think this is really a chef's kiss. I might have to change my vote. I think you've swayed me.
Since you're enjoying the show, please like and subscribe to the video. It helps the channel grow.
Support Eternal Dodos on Patreon so we can create even more content and cover events.
Patreon supporters get an ad-free RSS feed. You can even join our deck donation tier to get your very own episode.
Join the Durdle Maniacs at patreon.com/eternaldurdles. Now back to the show.
Because it's really that risk reward that you're trying to ride. And sometimes you got to do it because, you know, you think you can win the game, but if they find a land and a threat before you do, if you cast it when you're behind, or
if they find a Swords of Plowshares and they just get your Terraform,
exactly,
and you're like, I'm an idiot.
Okay, let's start the game over. And I bet that, you know, my cards are arbitrarily stacked better than yours are.
Yeah, right? It's oftentimes it's not, you know.
Yeah, exactly. Okay,
all right.
Fair enough.
So Ancestral Recall, talk to me.
Okay, everybody knows what this card does. Everybody knows it's one of the best cards in Magic. I viewed it through the lens of what is the cheapest way that I could accrue similar card advantage for various definitions of card advantage, right? Card advantage isn't always drawing cards. Sometimes it's going up on cards, right? You cast Wrath of God into 3 creatures. It's kind of like an Ancestral.
There you go, Ancestral Recall.
So that's why I ended up landing on Cabal Therapy.
Okay, Cabal Therapy.
I don't know any other cards in the pre-modern format that for 1 mana can result in a 4-for-1. That's like the highest it can do. You can flash it back with another creature to accrue additional value, and it rewards format knowledge in a way that many other cards do not. Now, that's not something necessarily that Ancestral Recall has going for it. I will say that Owning
an island and an Ancestral Recall is all you need to make Ancestral Recall work.
I will say that there's actually a higher ceiling on Ancestral Recall than merely drawing 3 cards.
Yes.
I've experienced it firsthand. I played in a vintage tournament where my opponent was on Dredge, and I was able to recall them for the win. That is, you know, I feel like that's, you know, that should be on every.
Have you heard my Mold of 4 story?
No, lay it on me.
So I was playing. This is right after he won vintage champs. So I didn't know him. I had met him at this tournament. Joe Brennan and I had played against each other at like a New York vintage event that Roland Chang invited me to. And Roland was like, hey, that guy just won like vintage champs, you know, like heads up, he's good. And he's on, you know, like blue, white, red, like control. And I'm on my Tinker deck. You know, like just trying to like time vault
card. Yeah, right.
time vault my opponent, right? And so game 1, I win. Game 2, he gets a Stony Silence, he wins. Game 3, I Mold a 4.
As one does.
And my 4 is Misdirection, Force of Will, blue card. And I'm like, this is as good a 4 as I'm going to get. Like, it is what it is.
I mean, it's vintage. Like, you keep that hand.
Yeah, I mean, this is like I said, it's the best 4 I can ask
Right.
for.
Yeah. Don't die and hope to draw out of it.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, opponent plays a fetch land, passes. I go draw a card. It's an Ancestral Recall. Neat.
That's a good one. Yeah.
But I can't cast it, so pass turn.
Living on a prayer.
My opponent goes to their before end of turn. Crack fetch. Tundra. Mystical Tutor. And I'm like, it's happening.
Right.
It's happening.
Right.
Ancestral Recall on top. Untap. Cast Ancestral Recall. Misdirection. To me. Obviously. Pyroblast. Force of Will. Okay, man, you get 3 cards. I draw. It's Manifold, Black Lotus, Tezzeret the Seeker.
That's all she wrote.
So I got I got Tezzeret the Seeker in play, and then I fetched up a Time Vault, and then he wasn't able to get rid of it the next turn.
The blowout.
Yeah, it was amazing. An amazing chain of events. The best I've ever done in a tournament situation where like I mulled to 4. Like normally I just lose the game. So your Ancestral Recall is Cabal Therapy.
Yes.
We haven't really talked about mine yet. I think so. There's a lot of cards that can kind of fit in that slot. We can go 3 for 1 and talk about the Boon Cycle, right? We can talk about Lightning Bolt. Lightning Bolt, highly played card in the format. If there was another card that I could think of that is ubiquitous on that level in the format, like Lightning Bolt, you want it at every stage of the game, right?
Sure.
Same thing with Ancestral. But we just talked about how accumulated knowledge could be a draw 3, you know? That is almost on the same level. It's even an instant, right? It costs 1 more mana. But I think if we're talking about true, like 3 for 1s, it's got to be Replenish.
Really? Your Ancestral Recall is Replenish?
I think Replenish does the most, like, for 1 card, you can almost always guarantee 3 or more cards are hitting the board.
All right, I'm making a note here because I want to double back on this idea.
Yeah. So to me, like Replenish is a card, and it's a card that has a place in my heart. I built my rating in the 90s on the Replenish deck. It's a deck I don't even play.
When we had ELO?
Yeah,
the Dark
ELO
Ages.
Indeed. In ELO, yeah.
The Dark Ages.
I was 40 points away from being invited to the Pro Tour, I think, which was like, 12 matches.
Do we have time for an aside here? Can I give you a hot
Sure,
take?
sure.
My opinion on ELO. I think them getting rid of ELO was one of the best things they ever did for the game.
I agree. As a person who got banned for 5 years because ELO exists, yes, I heartily agree.
Okay, I don't know that story. We're going to have to dig into it when the cameras are not rolling.
Yeah.
Save that for a future episode.
Sure. Most people know that one.
Okay.
I'll share that with you later.
But the reason why I think getting rid of ELO is because it rewarded a very small subset of players who were very, very good at the game. I don't want to take away from their successes.
Sure.
I think it's important to measure that kind of thing in a way that does not detract from others who aren't as good, because that meant that losing a match of Magic didn't mean you were only losing the match, or we're only out of contention in the tournament. So if you look at like back when we had GPs, I don't know what we have now, but back when like you would literally travel around the country and in some cases the world with your friends to play this game, right? And then suddenly you find yourself in the X2 bracket and you're out of contention.
And you had a reason to keep going.
Well, no. Because let's say you just misread the metagame and you broke the wrong deck,
you definitely had a reason to quit at that point if you misread the metagame.
Because you had to defend your ELO. And so now you're just wandering around this convention hall doing nothing because you can't afford to lose.
Yes.
And so it's like that presence of that pressure.
Like a K event, you were like, I can't do this.
Right, exactly. Yeah. And so that like robbed you.
That's why I like when they switched to like the hard up Planeswalker points. Like you didn't lose anything, but you could only gain stuff.
Yes.
Because then you were just playing for buys.
I agree. That format wasn't perfect, but I think it was a lot better because
it's more perfect than whatever we have now, for sure.
Yeah. Well, I don't even know if there's competitive Magic anymore. But now, if you scrub out, you can play the game that you love without fear of it diminishing your future results. And that's I think that was just so important. I'm sorry, we totally got distracted here.
So we're up to Black Lotus now.
We are up to Black Lotus.
Black Lotus.
All right. My pick for this is actually not that interesting. It's Dark Ritual.
Yeah, I mean, Dark Ritual is a defensible choice. It does create 3 mana. Simply put, right? A lot of times, all you're trying to do with a Black Lotus is put 3 mana into play any way you can, right? Like, so that you could be like, now I have, 4 mana or whatever. Like, you're just trying to be like, I have accrued a bunch of mana, and I could have easily been like, instead of putting Black Lotus here, Dark Ritual in my Mox Jet spot, I could have been like, okay, one of these is going to be, Lotus Petal, and then I choose a Soul Land as like one of the other colors,
Sure,
right?
Sure.
So all of that is like in the same category. For me,
I'm sorry. I want to go out on a limb here.
Please.
And give Dark Ritual a couple more points.
Mhm.
It's not just used to power out Hypnotic Specters. We're going to get super into the weeds on this,
Okay.
but Dark Ritual has something that Lotus Petal does not. It has the benefit of hidden information. So you cannot counter a Mono League with a Dark Ritual without exposing yourself to disenchant. Put that in your pipe and smoke.
Yeah, it's true. It's true. You've got that up on you, at least. Yeah, Black Lotus is tough, right? Like, of course you could say Gaia's Cradle, right? That's going to produce you a bunch of mana.
Mhm.
But you want that, like, Black Lotus is often game defining in a way that like makes the game one-sided, right? Like, in the format that it's legal, its early game becomes one-sided, right? But
Yes.
if we're talking about pre-modern, games don't really become, this is the beauty of pre-modern, games don't really become one-sided until later in the game, at least like turn 4 or 5, right? And so if we're talking about one-sided games, then I think Parallax Tide is the card that makes games the most one-sided.
Interesting.
Right? Parallax Tide basically, when combined with Stifle or Chain of Vapor, basically makes the game about like, you have no lands, I have 5 lands. Right? So you're gaining a mana advantage on your opponent, but you're doing it at a different point in the game. But I would say in pre-modern, that's the point in the game where it really matters. Is in that mid to late game where the games are truly defined, right? The games in pre-modern are almost always defined, I feel like, turn 4, 5, 6. You can really tell what's going on in turn 4, 5, and 6 in pre-modern. I think turn 1, 2, and 3 are pure setup. You can be like, oh, he didn't get any land or whatever. But the average game in pre-modern probably goes to like turn 7, 8, 9, 10, right? And that turn 4, 5, and 6 is really what says like this game is now not a thing. Now I'm a control player, the games go longer than that. But if you're a Tide player, the games go longer, but they're ostensibly over after you put a Tide out.
You 5 for 1 somebody.
Yeah.
I think there's a theme here, right? If you look at the original Power 9, they often are game defining, but they're not the thing that wins you the game, right? They're enablers. They're the thing that gets you to the thing that wins the game, right? And so that had me thinking, like, is it better to think about pre-modern in the context of like enabler payoff? Like, where is that axis, right? And in order to have that discussion, you kind of have to eschew, I think, a couple of assumptions. One, that we should limit ourselves to only 9 cards or 9 interactions.
Yeah, of course.
You can check probably the Wayback Machine for the Mana Drain archives to see, like, shouldn't there be like a power 10 or 11 or 12? And
Sure,
I think that those were totally defensible arguments to have, because 9 is just an arbitrary cutoff, as far as I can tell. But, there's a couple of like combos or engines, right? Like Survival of the Fittest and Squee.
Yeah, of course.
Like that is a tremendously powerful engine. You mentioned Parallax Tide, so like the cards that combo with that, like Stifle, which also combo with Phyrexian Dreadnought and your opponent's fetch line, incidentally, right? So it's an interesting like place to explore mentally, like what are the cards that on the enablement power axes, right? What are the outliers there, right? I think that's an interesting place to look at. Like for me, Stifle is a huge standout, right? And you can look at this sort of experimentally with the data of the deck lists that you find on all those websites that show like the top 8, like who's winning, right? Or like the most commonly played cards. There's a reason why the Power 9 are in sort of like all of the vintage decks. I don't know, that might be a little bit of the tail wagging the dog, but I think that kind of gets the idea across, right? Another one of the standouts would be, for example, Goblin Lackey. That card is arguably like a Black Lotus on the stick in the right deck, right? Because that combos with any card that says Goblin on it, or possibly Oath of Druids, which combos with your opponent's creatures.
Yeah, I mean, Oath of Druids could easily been a choice of mine for Black Lotus, right? Like,
for sure. I actually think one of the more interesting standouts in this space is Gaia's Cradle, because it simultaneously acts as both an enabler and a payoff, depending on the makeup of your hand, your board state, and if it's the early, the middle, or the late game.
You know, you were discussing something else that I wanted to in the twilight of this episode. I wanted to discuss something that you mentioned when you were talking about what is the Power 9, and it's enablers mostly, right?
Right.
And that's why we don't end up seeing cards like Terravor or Phyrexian Dreadnought or Hypnotic Spectre on the list, right? Because they're not the cards. The analog isn't there for like. There's no.
That's the punctuation mark.
Yeah. There's no like if Sarah Angel was a card in the Power 12 or something like that, maybe we would be talking about Phyrexian Dreadnought, or like Juzum Jin was a card. We might be talking about Terravor, but we don't, because those cards are game enders, right? Like Phyrexian Dreadnought and Terravor and Hypnotic Spectre are all cards that close the door. They're the end. That's how the game ends, right? But really what we're talking about is how the game gets to the end. That's what the Power 9 does. It facilitates, right? So you can't really be talking about cards like Terravor or Hypnotic Spectre or Dreadnought, because they're not the cards that get you there. They're the cards that once you've arrived, you're like, hey, goodbye. This is it.
Yeah, there's something poetic about a format that you can't really figure out what the game's about until the 7th or 8th turn, because it's almost like you are a participant in a story that is both being told to you and you're creating at the same time. And the payoffs, right, the punctuation marks, they're part of the grammar in that, if you try to anticipate when the sentence is going to end, you can sort of figure out like who's going to dictate the terms for victory and when. But maybe you want to, insert a little em dash or a semicolon and continue the train of thought in a different direction.
Well, that's
like one of the things that's great about this format is
it's a beautiful way to put it, actually. It is to me, like what do they say? What is it, like polo is the most beautiful game or something like that? That's how I feel about PreModern, right? Like this is the best version of the thing that we do, because there is time to tell a story. There is time to appreciate what's on the board. There's time to react to what's happening, And
Yes.
to me, like that's and I think that's why people enjoy formats like Pauper too, is like because there is the power level is lowered and the enjoyment for everybody is increased.
Oh, right. You're not playing Candyland.
Yeah.
There's degrees to maneuver and express yourself, as opposed to
you're not just losing to the goddamn licorice landlord again.
Right, or whatever it is.
the fairy plum princess.
Yeah. So I guess, with that said, to wrap up my thoughts on all of this, I have come up with a Power 12 that I would like to share with you.
Do tell.
These come in no particular order, and what I did was, I tried to distill the thought process I've just laid out with you now, Zach, and your viewers, how to wind up here. And I wanted to pick 2 cards from each color to make sure everybody was adequately represented, along with colorless. So that's how we get
Okay,
this ball.
let's
right?
speed round this thing.
So
Go.
all right, so we're gonna start with black, right? So that's Dark Ritual and Cabal Therapy.
You got it.
Okay, then we're gonna move over to blue. That's Gush and Stifle. Finally, and then to green, we got Survival of the Fittest and Oath of Druids. For white, I landed on Replenish and Swords of Plowshares. For red,
Hold on.
Yeah.
Replenish. And I know everyone knows what Swords of Plowshares does, but like, let's
sure
put
you
it
got to
up
get a
there.
graphic on the screen. I get it.
There we go. Let's throw Swords. There we go.
Yeah, and remember, these are enablers, right?
Yeah.
So Swords of Plowshares will never win you the game on its own, right? It enables certain archetypes to exist, right? So red, Goblin Lackey, and then Mog Fanatic.
Goblin Lackey and Mog Fanatic.
Mog Fanatic.
I'm surprised you didn't go with Lightning Bolt, but Lightning Bolt could win you the game. I guess Mog Fanatic can win you the
So
game
can
too.
Mog Fanatic. In my experience, Mog Fanatic does a little bit more for you than Lightning Bolt does.
Sure, that's
just,
fair.
You know. And then for colorless, I wound up on a Mox Diamond and Mistress Factory.
A Mistress Factory. There he is.
Yo.
To me, honestly, like one of the under. To me, this is the. If I have a power 9, that's number 10 on the list. Is Factory. I think Factory is the most useful card that you can put into any deck. That isn't just trying to like immediately win the game, and even then, you can still use it to immediately win the game.
I hear you.
I like it as a blocker, as like a thing that's like, this is my inevitability. Eventually, I'm going to get there with this card, or just as a thing that says don't attack.
It slices, it dices, it
Yeah.
julienne fries. I have a hot take on this. I think that this card should be played on either turn 1 or on turn 4.
Okay.
And not any other turns in the early to mid game.
Okay. That's based on like being able to make it a 3/3 on turn 2.
It's based on me watching a lot of YouTube videos of people playing PreModern on my lunch break and yelling at my screen saying, "You wouldn't
Damn
be
it,
in this
Phil."
position if you played this card sooner."
Yeah. Fair enough. All right. Well, with that said, I guess the question is, audience, what is your pre-modern Power 9, and what are you basing that on?
Yeah, make sure to comment below and leave
do
your
the
hot takes.
things,
We
right?
want to see them. Tell us how wrong we were.
Yes.
I can't wait to hear it. I gobble up those comments.
All right. Well, thank you for watching, everybody. We will catch you on the flip.
Take care. Thanks.
Hey, if you enjoyed this episode, hit the subscribe button.
You can also support us on patreon.com/eternaldurdles, which now offers the new Deck Donation tier.
During July, the Deck Donation patrons will get a 2-for-1 special where both Phil and I will run your deck through a league.
I'll play literally whatever you want.
So brew your spiciest or stock us up with a stock list.
I'll literally play whatever you want.
Thanks for watching.